Dear audience, welcome to Geneva Interviews. My guest today is Robert King-Sarfo. He is a man that wears many hats, both literally and figuratively. He was a kizomba dance teacher, leading workshops all over the world, on top of his main corporate job at the BBC and Warner Brothers, among others. Nowadays, he focuses his energy on building community in Geneva, Switzerland. He preaches at Hillsong, or I like to call him their super sub. He is the founder of GQM and is currently studying at Harvard in their Masters in Leadership program. Today, we're going to talk about who he is, how he managed to excel in so many fields, including practical tips we can hopefully all draw from. First of all, Robert, thank you for your time. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Gabriel. It's an honor to be here.
Thank you so much for your time, for being here.
It's great to be here.
And could you tell me how you're feeling?
Right now?
Right now. What's going through your mind, through your heart?
I feel like you make me sound way better and way more prolific than I actually am. So thank you for that.
Well, I call it like I see it.
Thanks.
Let's get into it. We talked about your excellence in these fields. And I was wondering what traits make for an excellent dancer, an excellent public speaker, an excellent manager. Were there any traits of character, commonalities that shone in these different areas?
Yes, absolutely. And this is not just a good question, but it's a big question. If I can just break it down a little bit. First, probably with the commonality before we talk about a trait. The commonality I see here is that of communication. Is the thread that links all of them together. Because to dance at all, either by yourself or with a partner or in a group, is to communicate. If I dance by myself, the music is communicating to me through the various instruments and the various range of emotions of the singer. And then my body then interprets that in movement. Now, when you dance with a dance partner, that communication is even more enhanced because it's leading and following. And you can have a semblance of an excellent dance if you are not communicating well together in the leading and following aspect. Now, when it comes to public speaking or speaking, to speak on any given platform at all is to communicate. But unfortunately, myself included, most often what we do is we speak and forget to communicate. And speaking is just a simple act of delivering words. It's filling the air with words. Whilst communicating is just a meaningful exchange, connecting and resonating with your audience. So yeah, I hope we communicate more and speak less. Now, when it comes to the managers, being a manager, all the great managers that I've known are great communicators. Because by and large, we manage things, but we relate to people. And you cannot effectively relate to people without a sound communication. So I would say communication will be the commonality. But when it comes to the character traits, I think you just really got to honestly love people.
Riffing a bit further on that question, the idea was to address the notion of traits, maybe character traits. One way to explore this would be maybe the difference between the stereotypes of extroversion, introversion. Do you think that it helps to be one or either, to be a communicator and therefore to excel in these fields?
Not at all. Not at all. You can have somebody that we probably will label as an introvert or extrovert, but usually we tend to go for the extroverts being great at anything public, anything that has to do with the public, being a dancer or a speaker or even a manager. But there are some introverts that are excellent in all of these fields, that whether being a dancer or a speaker or a manager. So the whole introvert extrovert thing usually is played out, in my opinion, not in the right way. That if you are introvert, you are always like by yourself, not wanting to get involved with things or with people or anything to do with public. That's not quite true.
That's good. That means there's hope for all of us. Yes,
Yes, absolutely.
Excellent. I like to hear that. Next question. In general terms, could you tell me a bit about how the interactions of these different jobs, activities fed off each other? How being a good manager maybe helped you become a better communicator for your faith group, or conversely, how dancing might have informed your other activities? How did they feed off each other in very general terms?
Sorry, repeat the question.
Yeah, of course. Like, how did one activity reinforce your skill level, increase your skill level at another? Like maybe, so speaking for myself, I danced a little bit, like you, obviously.
Yeah.
And I realized that it helped me break down some maybe barriers of shyness and intimidation, and help me approach people with maybe a warmer, more understanding energy. That would just be my sort of example. Is there something like that maybe speak to you in your universe?
Yes, absolutely. Because in all of these spaces, you are taking a huge risk putting yourself out there. Like you go to a workshop or you go to a festival and to do a workshop, and there is no guarantee anybody will turn up at your workshop. Or if they turn up at your workshop, there is no guarantee that people are actually going to benefit or enjoy your workshop. So whether in the dance or in speaking or in the corporate world, all you got to do is go with the mindset that you are going to bring your absolute best self. And because it's the only way you can come away from it, regardless of what happens, that you can look at yourself in the mirror. Like you go in there with like your A game, whether it's one person or 1,000 people, you are bringing your absolute A game, your absolute best. So that plays out across all of these fields. It's like when I go to the office, I have no idea what is going to happen in the day, whether with my higher ups or with the clients, the EMEA territories that I managed. But I go in there thinking, whatever happens today, I am going to do my best, whether it's putting out the fires, which we did that a lot. We worked to deadlines. So whatever happens, you are going in today to the office, to the studio, to the workshop, or to that stage, and just bring your absolute, nothing short of your best.
So maybe to make this it's even more concrete, you're running a dance workshop. You've got 100 people trying to get the best out of you. It's 100 people. There are some amazing dancers. There are people who are maybe a bit less amazing. Who do you pitch the class to? How do you negotiate the fact that you're communicating, but there are 100 people communicating back at you, and they are not all the same, obviously.
That's really interesting. One of the things I always say is, even if you are in a studio or in a workshop with 10 people, there are always more eyes on you than you have on others. So you cannot actually focus entirely on each and every single person. So usually what I personally prefer to do is look more to those that are struggling the most. And then I start from there. So you go into the workshop, you put on the music. Usually this is what I do. And this is the best practice you can do. Not just in the dance field, by the way. I put on the music and then I ask people, have fun, break your leg. Show me what you got. Okay, so the first music that plays for 2.5, 3 minutes, you have a good gauge of what you're going to be dealing with. And
It's interesting. So people go to workshop and often they're in the setup where, okay, the leader teacher will lead and I'll follow, but you're actually kind of throwing them the ball at the beginning and be like, okay,
let's see. It would be very presumptive
Yeah.
to say, that is why I always say, look, preparation, it's really, really good. You always have to be prepared, but you also have to also leave room to be surprised and to go with the flow. Because if I stay at home and I say, oh, I stay in my little studio where I practice with my dance partners, I say, this is the routine we are going to teach at this workshop, at this festival, and no room for change. This is it. This is what we practiced. And then I go and then I set up the routine and then I teach, which is perfectly fine if people want to do that. For me, what that does is you are not actually thinking about the people that are coming into the audience. You're only thinking about you and what you have to give them, not what they have that they are bringing to the workshop. So what I do is I put on the music, and I always do that. I put on the music, let people dance. And then I would tailor whatever I prepared to suit the class. Because you can always tweak.
You know, something that came to mind as you were explaining that you try to address those who are maybe struggling a little bit more. It also occurs to me that ultimately is the way to be most beneficial, because if you were to help the most proficient ones, you would maybe be helping 5% of the class with that material, and the rest would be left out. Whereas if you're focusing the bottom 5%, I'm sure whatever you teach them can impact the other 95%, because we can always improve even the most basic step.
Yeah. So, and also even with the most proficient one, I go to classes. When my friends are teaching, I go to their classes to support, to be there, to, as an experienced dancer, help, give confidence to maybe some of the less experienced dancers. And I always love it when they do the basics. And when I'm dancing with people, doing the basics with them, they feel like, oh, this is actually nice. This is actually good to do. It gives them confidence to do the more difficult stuff. So you always start with people that you feel like, okay, we'll be struggling. Sounds
good. You've probably heard of the book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Yeah. Things like being proactive.
Covey.
Exactly. So my next question is, he has the practices set out in that book. I'm wondering if you might have practices of your own that might have helped you shine.
Yes, a few. But the one practice that I would say that has helped me and continues to help me, and I believe will always help me if I maintain that mindset, is not allowing what I cannot do or be tomorrow interfere with what I can do and be today. Meaning, there is always something we want to do. There is always something we want to be. There is always a goal, a vision, the big dream tomorrow. But Gabriel, if we are honest, most of us, we wake up every day to a reality that is at odds with a big dream, with the big vision. And that can be discouraging.
Yeah, that's why I say reality bites.
That can be very discouraging for most of us. And most of us don't get started because we're so discouraged with the reality we're facing compared to the big dream we have. So the practices that have helped me and the habits that I've cultivated for so long is, okay, yes, I have this dream, I have this vision, but the reality today does not match it. But what baby steps can I take today? Yes, I cannot be that yet. I cannot do that yet. But today, what can I do? What can I be towards the big vision, the big dream, the big goal?